And so, our talk today is on embracing gratitude. Embracing gratitude. The great 13th mystic German philosopher Eckhart, here we go, Meister Eckhart, thank you, is noted for saying that if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is an expression of gratitude, of thanksgiving, of appreciation, it will be enough. Gratitude is so incredibly powerful. It is a sacred practice. Gratitude is a sacred practice. It allows us to recognize the good in our life, to recognize the God in our life, and to grow closer to, acknowledge, and grow closer to that God, that universal love, that light, that essence, to recognize it and acknowledge the good. The good, right where we are, no matter where we are, no matter what is happening in our lives, the good that is there. Gratitude allows us to move into a space of our hearts to be humble, to open our hearts, to not only see the good, but to share the good in our lives. That's the magic of gratitude. And I call it magic because it is so incredibly powerful. It's all we need to do to shift our energy from one of feeling lack to one of feeling so greatly blessed simply by recognizing the good in our lives. And that's what we want to do. We are energy and vibration. We want to keep our energy up, high, lifted high, just like this song was talking about. Keep our energy aligned with God, aligned with good, aligned with the divine, aligned with the divinity in us, the good in us. And move from that place, live from that place. Have that be the driving force in our life, the awareness of who we are, whose we are, that we are all one, that we are all brothers and sisters, sharing this planet and this earthly experience. I first joined Unity of the Keys as your senior minister back in 2016. And those of you who've worked closely with me know I like to plan. I'm a planner. I try to be a flexible planner, not a rigid, etched in stone kind of planner, but I like to plan things out so that it gives me the flexibility of changing, but also to have a blueprint of where I'm going and where hopefully I'm helping you go. And so I decided to do a couple talks on gratitude. And I picked up my go-to book, which is by Brother David Stendal Rast. It's Gratefulness, The Heart of Prayer. And it's a wonderful book. I've shared it here many times. And I decided to do a 3-week series. And the more I immersed myself in the work of Brother David, and the more I spent time in prayer and allowed myself to be divinely guided, those 3 weeks turned into 4, turned into 5, turned into a 9-week series that culminated with Thanksgiving. I was immersed in the process. And I know many of you also allowed yourselves absolutely to be immersed in that process. Remember, we had a tree up here. It's still in the children's room that Lee and the kids made with paper mache, and we had leaves that are the shape of a heart. And each week we could write something that we were grateful for and hang it on the tree during that season of gratitude. And one week, Eileen Quinn, the church lady at that time, and I decided we were going to make one for every person in the congregation. And we sat down and wrote a leaf for every person with their name on it. We wanted everyone's name on that tree, for we were grateful for everyone who stepped into our sanctuary and loved us and shared their hearts with us. And we did that. And then Melody Cooper, in that process, remember Melody was our was our music director, and she had advised me back when I was interviewing here that she and her husband were going to be moving to North Carolina, but we'd get to have a few weeks of overlap. She told me that she discovered this video, and it was by a performer that neither one of us had ever heard of before. Although we knew Daniel Nahmod, we had never heard of Nimesh Patel, Nemo, and Empty Hands Music. She showed me this grateful video, and we showed it here in church. And then during our Absolute Abundance course, we showed it almost every week. And since then, our music team learned the songs and the music, and they do so much of that music, of Nemo. And I know that some of you think that I knew Nemo before and brought him here. And I can understand why you'd think that, because I came to love him. Denny and I let him use our apartment while they were here. We loaned him our car and our bicycles and whatnot. I'd never met him before. I had never met him before. This is how it happened. How it happened was that Melody showed me the video. I loved it, she loved it, you all loved it. Now, a tithing practice that Unity of the Keys had at that time, and still has, because Unity of the Keys is a consistent tither who tithes 10% of all income that comes in back out again to where they're being spiritually fed. They had a practice that I really admired, and that was where the music director would choose a New Thought musician one week, and $100 was carved out to be sent to that New Thought musician whose music had blessed us or inspired Melody or had inspired the music team. And I thought, I want in on that. So I went to the Board of Trustees and I said, I would like one week have carved out $100 of a minister's tithe and let me choose. Someone, might be a Unity minister, an author, somebody I find on the internet, whatever, that inspires me in my talks that I then share with the community. And of course the board said yes, because that's the kind of relationship I have with the board. They tell me yes a lot. Now, I don't want you to think we have a yes board, because they also sometimes go, let's look at that. And we do. We look at it from a higher perspective. Maybe something I brought forward is not such a good idea. Or with their input, it morphs into something greater than what it was going to be in the first place. I love our board and the relationship that I have with your Board of Trustees. And so they allowed me to have a minister's tithe, which I am doing now also, as you hear when we announce our tithes. And so I decided that I wanted this unknown person, Nemo, Nimesh Patel, Empty Hands Music, to receive the minister's tithe one month. And so I went to their website, and like many websites today, you don't find a physical address. You know, you can maybe contact me with an email, but you don't find a physical address. And we do things old school here, and I'm glad we do. We like to write our checks out. A board officer signs them. We then bless the checks. We infuse them with love before they get put in a physical envelope and are mailed. And we still do that, although we've changed our blessing. I bless them from afar, and Deborah Butler blesses them. But Lori sends them to us. We see them, we bless them. So I sent an email. And said, we would like to send a tithe. Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center would like to send a tithe to Nemo, and if you would please send us your address. I sent that on January 24th, about 8:30 in the morning. Within an hour, this was the email that I received back. I have this saved in my email. I'm never getting rid of it. It says, Dear Reverend Daybree, blessings to you from India. I'm sure Nemo will be delighted to get this message, but I'm going to send a response that excites me. We are in the middle of planning Nemo's Empty Hands tour from March until June of 2017. What if we use that donation that you guys are sending to help fly Nemo out to your Unity Church to do an Empty Hands gathering concert for your congregation? Just an idea that came from the heart. Nemo doesn't charge anything and offers everything as a labor of love and gift offering. I would have to discuss this with Nemo as well, but since I'm helping to organize the tour, I thought it was a good idea. Either way, and he gives me the mailing address. And then he says, blessings to you and all the love you spread to your community, Deepa and the Empty Hands family. I sat in my office and cried when I opened up this email and read. I still cry when I read this email. I would have never thought about inviting Nemo here from that video, but all it took was an offer. All it took was an expression of gratitude, of appreciation, to say, we really love your music, thank you for doing that, we appreciate it. And it opened up to us a relationship that's going on now very soon, 5 years of us and Nemo, with him blessing us with his music. It's a very simple act. Remember, tithing is an outward act of gratitude. That's what it is. It's saying, I'm abundant. I have more than enough, and I give willingly and freely. It's an act of gratitude. We were giving an act of gratitude, and his coordinator was saying, that's wonderful. And I have a bigger idea. I have a way that he can bless you more and you can bless us more, and this would be marvelous. And it did. How many of you recognize this? It's a little cloth heart. How many here have one? Yeah? Anyone that, yeah, or 2 or 3. Because when Nemo travels and he connects with people, which is what he does, he meets people, he connects with them, he shares stories, he listens to them, he sings, and he shares. He brings this with him brings all the way from India. And I know that when you see this heart, wherever you have yours kept, you can't help but smile in remembering your connection with this amazing individual. This is an outward expression of gratitude. This is gratitude in the manifest world, saying, thank you, here's part of my heart. I'm so glad we're connected. I'm glad I've met you. How many of you paid for your heart? Did you exchange money for this? No. Mm-mm. That's not how it works. Nemo is such a beautiful example of gratitude in action, of living out loud his appreciation for life and for love, for healing, for forgiveness. His company, Empty Hands Music, is called that, Empty Hands, because you pay for nothing. You can download all the videos, all the music. Even when he brings the CDs, he gives those away. You can give a love offering if you want to. It's not expected. There's not an exchange of energy. Freely given. And some of you might remember the story that he shared with us when he told his dad what he was planning on doing. Remember, in Nemo's past, he was a very successful rap singer, made lots and lots and lots of money. So he tells his dad, this is what I want to do, and I'm not going to charge for anything. And his dad says, nothing? You're going to give everything away? How are you going to live? How are you going to make money? Well, that's what he does. And Nemo in Empty Hands Music thrives. It absolutely thrives with new videos and new music, new messages, new sharing, new events that nothing is charged for. He just wants to share his love. He just wants to share his love. I told him I was going to be talking about him today. And he said, well, because he's going to be on Zoom on November 21st. He goes, well, I was going to talk on gratitude. I'm like, I talked for 9 weeks on gratitude. It's okay. You can talk on gratitude also. Well, what about all the tools, all the gratitude tools that we learned and practiced? We had a lot of them, and I'm sure many of you still use some of them. And we would sometimes talk about a gratitude journal, and now you can do that on your phone or on the computer. I mean, it's so easy now to keep a journal of the things for which you're grateful. The Ho'oponopono practice, when you're starting to feel really badly about yourself, a way to appreciate yourself is to write 50 things you love about yourself. The forgiveness practices that help us break through our blocks to our good, all part of gratitude, and all things that we want to practice and continue to practice and to go beyond them. Because holding these thoughts of gratitude does lift our energy, and that's a blessing to our world. Just the fact that our energy is lifted. But it's an even greater blessing to our world to have gratitude in action in the manifest world. To give of yourself, of something, of many things. To give of yourself as the example with the hearts, with the free music. To be gratitude in action. To have it be the way you live your life. To have it express from your being that that's who you are, that you are grateful, that you are grateful for all of your good, all of the time. For that is true gratitude, when it is authentic action, when it comes from your heart. Authentic action. And so how can we do that? How can we do more of that? I'm not saying you're not. How can you do even more of that than you are? Well, you might be familiar with a pay it forward, sometimes called loving kindness, small acts of kindness. Ways to be aware of how you can bless others without having a plan. You don't have a plan written in your pocket. You're going through life just happy-go-lucky, and you find opportunities. Maybe you even seek out opportunities to bless other people. And I know that you do that. I know that you do that because I know you. And y'all do that. Wasn't that long ago that Nancy Mishka and I were out to dinner, and we happened to notice that there was a serviceman eating by himself. So we called the waitress over and said, has that gentleman paid for his tab yet? And she said no. We said, well, we'd like to pick it up. And I know you all have done that. I remember a time back, and it was here in Key West, I saw a gentleman eating by himself, and I asked the waitress if I could pick up his tab, and they said no, somebody already did. And I'm like, how awesome is that? Somebody beat me to it. That's great. There's so many people wanting to bless other people. Well, this waitress, was not as savvy as some that I've worked with, and she went right over and told him it was us, even though we said we want to do this anonymously. And he came over and he said thank you and gave us a little military patch. Again, an outward expression of gratitude. We were saying thank you for your service, and we want to bless you. And he was saying thank you with this patch. Doing these small acts of kindness are kind of a safe way especially when we're just beginning this practice. You don't have a huge commitment. You're not even sure what you're going to be doing. And you can do it anonymously unless you have a waitress that's not really savvy. You can do it anonymously and kind of slick, and it can be so much fun. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you know this. So much fun when we remember to do it. Now I'm going to give you an example of how I failed miserably in this same process. Because our mindset, in order to do this, our mindset needs to be twofold. It needs to be one of oneness. Every man is my brother, every woman is my sister, and an awareness of absolute abundance. That my life is abundantly blessed in every area of my life. There is enoughness. There's enough for me. There's enough for everyone. When we're in that state, it all comes so naturally. So I'm working on a project for the Parable of the Talent sale, and I'm going to give a shameless promotion for what I'm doing. What I'm going to offer on that day, on our sale in December, is a future workshop on kindness rocks. And kindness rocks are simply, rocks that I'll have painted in a solid color. And the workshop will be in February. A friend of mine from Wichita is going to facilitate it via Zoom, and we'll put love, and we'll have this special paint to do on these rocks. Well, apparently, there is a shortage of spray paint. Did anybody else know that? A shortage of spray paint. So I went on 3 different shopping trips trying to find paint to paint these rocks. And before you jump ahead and guess, yes, I did pack in my luggage and my carry-on about 7 pounds of rocks. I know that's crazy. Bought them there in Hot Springs, painted them, put them in my luggage, brought them here. I'm going to do it 2 more times before the workshop. So, but I was having trouble finding paint. So Denny and I went to Lowe's, and look at this beautiful blue heather paint. They had 1 can on the shelf, 1 can. So I had placed it in my cart. And a woman walks by me and kind of backs up again, and she said, "Where did you find that paint?" And I said, right there on that empty shelf. It's the last one. And if my memory serves me, I may have actually picked up the can of paint and held it to me. Jokingly, only half jokingly, because I wanted this color paint. However, if I had been in my right mind, if I had remembered that that woman was my sister, and that there's enough paint for everyone in the world, and that if she wanted that can of paint, I wouldn't have even given it a second thought. I'd have very naturally and freely offered her that can of paint. I went home, and it was like a couple hours later, I'm like, what did I do? Why did I do that? And Denny laughs at me, but it's one of those things where you wish you could do a do-over. But as long as you learn from it, and that's what I told myself, as long as I learn from it, to be aware of where I'm coming from. Actually, I was coming from lack when I said, my can of paint. I was coming from an absolute lack instead of abundance. That's a choice. Are we coming from fear, or are we coming from love? When we're coming from love, compassion, abundance, all of our actions flow naturally and smoothly, joyfully. And life is fun. Life is fun. I didn't beat myself up too much. Gratitude changes everything. Gratitude changes us. When we come from that space of knowing there is enough for everyone, that we are all one another. That's not only my sister, that's me. That's not only my brother, that's me. That we are all reflections and expressions of one another. Then we can come from a generous heart. Not only opening our hearts, but opening our wallets. Recognizing that everything that we have, all the good that is in our lives, doesn't really belong to us. Because we all have precious things. We all have things that are dear to us. But do we hoard them? Put them away and look at them once a year? Or do we share them? When I turned to Scripture this morning, and I'll do so briefly, this is a Bible that I had kept here that I love. I couldn't pack mine because I had rocks in my luggage, and it was a little heavy. It comes from Matthew 6, 19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now we know that metaphysically our heart is love. It's love, it's compassion, it's abundance. And so to come from a state of not gathering more stuff, and I think many of us have reached that point in our lives where that's just not what we want to do. We're about letting go. We're about releasing. We're about simplifying and sharing. Releasing things not only that we don't use, that we don't appreciate, but even releasing things that we cherish. Allowing them to bless somebody else's life. Then, when we do that without reservation and great joy, we truly, truly bless our worlds. I'm grateful for all of you. I know you are all grateful for one another. We are appreciative of having this beautiful sanctuary so steeped in love. I was talking with someone this morning saying it feels so good in here because I know that this sanctuary is steeped in prayer, in love, and joyful song. Thank you for blessing your world as you do, because I know you do. I know each of you blesses this world. Let's make a commitment to bless it even more generously by being aware of the consciousness from which we are living and moving and having our being. And so it is, my friends. Bless you. Thank you.